Hello, welcome to the Solvace 101 Getting Started tutorial. My name is Reino de Klerk. I'm one of the co-founders of Solvace. Today we're going to talk about the main features of Solvace in the context of technical problem solving, although Solvace has many other use cases. We're going to start off with a brief reminder of the benefits of Solvace for you as a user and for the organization in which you work. Then I will guide you through the main components of Solvace. We'll have a look at the homepage and then we'll create and analyze a problem. By the way, in Solvace we call a problem a challenge. I'll show you how to manage the implementation of a challenge and I will show you how to export and print the challenge. We'll discuss the communication features within Solvace and the ways to store and retrieve challenges in which you're involved. Finally, I'm going to talk about managing your user settings. So what is Solvace? Solvace is a software that helps companies solve problems better. It will help you solve each problem more efficiently, and each experience will make similar problems easier to solve in the future. Solvace has been created from the observation that even in advanced organizations in terms of operational excellence, the very same problem could occur frequently, either in the same site when the problem has not been correctly treated, or in other sites when the experience has not been properly shared. The purpose of Solvace is to solve each problem more efficiently to make sure it doesn't reoccur, to prevent the same problem from reoccurring elsewhere, and to reuse experience for treating comparable problems in other situations. The overall goal is to make continuous improvement exponential instead of just incremental. The first time you connect to Solvace, a pop-up will appear, proposing you to join one or several communities. Communities are groups of users, and here on this example I see that there are already 2 communities. I see that I'm already a member of the Newco community. I'm also interested in Lean, so I'll hover my mouse over the Lean community and a blue Join button appears. I click and now I have become a member of the Lean community as well. I can make new communities as much as I want, and when I'm done, I click on Start using Solvace. Your homepage has 3 components. There's a navigation bar in the top, there's the sidebar on the left, and there's an activity feed. The navigation bar in the top has the Solvace icon, and if you click on it, it will bring you back to your homepage wherever you are in the application. There's a quick search field, which allows you to search for people, challenges, or communities. There's also a link to an advanced search that will search for the same people, challenges, or communities in a more advanced way. The message icon shows you the number of messages and will bring you to your messaging account within Solvace. There's a help menu, which has several options underneath. It will bring you to the help desk, where you can create tickets, ask for support, and search through the knowledge base of Solvace. There's a link to a Getting Started guide in PDF format. There's a quick tour, and you can also email your administrator for any questions you may have. Finally, you can click on your name, which has a statistics browser, which is a collection of charts, such as, for example, the number of challenges or the number of actions and the progress in these actions. You can change your settings here, and you can sign out of Solvace altogether. Right underneath there is the activity feed, which is a collection of challenge items and activity items within Solvace. A challenge is concisely represented by a vignette, which shows its name, its creator, the people involved, and the communities and topics to which this challenge is linked. Here, for example, I see that the challenge is linked with the community Newco, and I see that I am indeed a member of the community Newco in my sidebar. Let's go through the different entries in the sidebar. At the top, there's the Trending on Solvace entry, which shows the current activity feed. Below, we have access to the challenges that we have either created ourselves, the ones we are involved in, or the ones we have access to through the communities that we are a member of. Right below, I can see my personal folders. For the moment, I don't have any, but I can create one like this. Here I create a maintenance personal folder. Folders are an easy way to access challenges that you have an interest in. So for example, this challenge, when I hover over it, there's a blue button on the right that appears, which is called folders, and when I click on it, I'm able to add this particular challenge to my maintenance personal folder. Done. And now when I click on maintenance, it will guide me to a page where all of the challenges that are linked with the maintenance personal folder are stored. Below the folder item, there's the actions entry. The actions entry is an easy way to have a transversal view across all challenges of the actions that are assigned to you. Below I can access some statistics about the number of challenges that I created and the actions that I'm assigned. And right below we have the communities that I'm a member of. As you can see, I can create a new community here. Finally, there's the search on Solvace, which is the advanced search that we talked about earlier in the navigation bar, which can search across Solvace with advanced parameters. Now we're going to create a new challenge. Here we are in the Analyze screen of the challenge editor. We have a central section where we can decompose the major problem that we have into different components, sub-problems, sub-sub-problems. And the central section is surrounded by a series of panels. At the top there's a toolbar which can toggle between the Analyze screen and the Implement screen. The Implement screen allows you to follow up on an action or an implementation plan, and we're going to discuss it later. There's a menu that allows you to toggle between different frameworks of a challenge. So we have the possibility to host multiple trees within one challenge, and we can create additional structures within a challenge by clicking on the new framework menu option. We can insert an Ishikawa structure, which is a fixed structure underneath the currently selected node. If we have a challenge in mind that is similar to ours and that we'd like to recuperate, we can include that existing challenge by clicking on this option. And we can standardize a challenge into a best practice. This is an option that we will discuss about later in the next video. Here we have the buttons to undo and redo a manipulation of the tree. There's the zoom out and the zoom in button. And there's the menu to enable or disable the panels that surround the tree structure. In the plus menu, we can go back in time. We can go back to the state the tree was in a couple of manipulations ago. We can export a challenge into a Word document or a PDF document. These documents include all of the information that will be entered in the challenge editor. We can take a screenshot of the currently displayed framework. We can display the activity feed, who has done what in this challenge, and we can display the keyboard shortcuts for easy manipulation of the tree. This icon shows the number of people who are currently viewing the tree. And if you want, you can chat with them by clicking on this button, which opens the chat panel, and you can enter messages here for live interaction on the currently edited challenge. So, for this video, we're gonna treat a technical challenge, which is about cracks on blades of a high-pressure turbine. First, we're gonna enter this problem in the root node of the challenge. Voila. And editing a node can be done by left-clicking on a selected node or clicking on the icon next to the node, which opens up a selection wheel. And one of the options is to edit the node. Voila. Or we can also use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl E to go into editing mode of the selected node. So now we can follow the problem-solving methodology to deep dive into this challenge. To do that, we can use the assistant panel on the left, which shows a general problem-solving methodology with a couple of steps that you can follow. And according to your expertise in problem solving, you might not need this panel altogether, and you may decide to close it using the cross at the top. On the right, I'm going to fill in more information about this challenge in the context section. So make sure that entire challenge is selected, and then you can add an optional title if it's different from the name of the root node that we have already filled in. You can select a couple of topics. So this challenge is about high pressure and about turbines. And I can create new topics if I want to. We can enter a description of the challenge, a history, some objectives, such as increasing the mean time between failure with 30%, and an outcome. Here we have a series of sliders which allow you to classify according to criteria specified from one organization to the other. Between 1 and 10, you can classify the challenge according to its impact, feasibility, and so on. Below those sliders, there's a couple of more fields which allow you to really provide a fine-grained description of the challenge using the well-known what, where, when, who, why, how, and how many questions. Once we have done all this, we can close the context section, and we can go to the next step, which is to gather a team around our challenge. So by default, you're the owner of your challenge and it's only visible to you. But you can invite other users to your challenge by selecting them from a drop-down menu. For example, I can add the quality manager, and I can add someone else, the facility manager. I can make this challenge visible to a community, which is the community pumps, which will have read-only access to this challenge. And I can add other users, such as, for example, the shift manager, which will have also read-only access to this challenge. So with read-only access, I mean that this person or this community will be able to add comments, vote on certain aspects of the challenge, but will not be able to change the structure of the tree, for example. We have defined the context of our challenge and the team that will help us in its resolution. So now we can start the root cause analysis of our challenge. According to the specific problem at hand, we can start by adding an Ishikawa, which allows us to structure our challenge into guiding themes. In this demo, we're not going to use these, and we're going to directly add possible root causes. Vibrations is one of them, and cavitation is another one. Note that we can make child themes by either hitting the tab key using our keyboard or using the selection wheel and adding a child using the plus icon. A newly added node will always be in text editing mode, and to confirm the name of this node I hit enter. To create a brother of a node, which is a node on the same level as the selected node, I hit the enter button on a selected node. By repeating these manipulations, we can structure our entire challenge and add as much possible causes as we want. Another way to add causes is through the automatic suggestions generated by Solvace. Let's select, for instance, the root node. And we make sure that the selected node button is active in the right panel. Then we make sure that the suggestions section is opened. And here we can distinguish several types of suggestions. We have structure suggestions, and in these structure suggestions we are interested right now. Structure suggestions can be either drivers, which are elements which have an influence on the overall challenge I'm trying to solve, or they can be recommendations, things that I can do to solve it. Other types of suggestions are topic experts and documents. We will come back to these types of suggestions later on. Coming back to structure suggestions, we see that Solvace recommends us corrosion and impact from projectile as possible causes. Why does Solvace suggest us this? Well, within the database of challenges in the organization, there must be a similar challenge, or just a part of a challenge, which allows Solvace to draw these suggestions. I can insert the first node, the second one, or both at the same time. I'm going to insert both by clicking here. Given that suggestions are drawn from similar challenges, the suggestions will be empty at the start of the deployment of Solvace in your organization. But little by little, when more challenges are solved using Solvace, Solvace will become smarter. So the next time someone solves a challenge about cracks on blades, Solvace will not only generate the suggestions that are already here, but also the ones that we have identified within this challenge. We also have suggestions of experts. These experts are predefined topic by your organization, or they are identified by Solvace through their use and contribution in Solvace. To invite an expert to participate, locate the mouse on an expert and click the Ask to Answer button. This will pop up a window where you can write a message to the expert and invite the person to contribute to your challenge. He or she will receive an email with the link to the challenge, and by clicking on this link, the expert will receive an email to access your challenge. Finally, we have suggestions of documents. Here we have the plan of a high-pressure turbine as a suggestion. We can preview the suggestion using a left click on the thumbnail here. Voila. And we can click the Insert button to insert the suggestion. After insertion, we see a little icon next to the selected node that tells us that there is a document attached to the node. We can of course attach our own documents to every node of the tree and to the challenge as a whole. To insert a document to the entire challenge, we make sure the entire framework button is active. Then we head over to the Documents section and we click Add a file. We select the file, for instance, the pump specifications, and we click Insert. We can upload a file to the server. This can be any Office document or image file, or we can link to a Google Drive document. We can add a video link, or we can add a note. The uploaded document is either linked with the entire challenge or linked with the selected node, depending on the active button here. We can link documents to nodes on the fly. For instance, when we select corrosion, we see that the document is not yet linked. By clicking the button Link with Node, we attach the document to the selected node, and we see the little icon that tells us there is a document attached to this node. During our analysis, it may be necessary to carry out an action. to make sure that the possible cause is really a cause within our challenge. Here, for example, we may add an action to the node vibrations, which could consist of verifying through measurement if there are actual vibrations on the turbine. We select the vibrations node and we make sure that the selected node is active. We then head over to the Actions section at the bottom and click on New Action. And we're going to call this action Verify Vibrations. We can describe the action here, indicate the start date, a due date, define an actor, and assign the action. We now see that an action has been assigned to this node. We see a preview of the action here, and we can see an overview of all the actions within the challenge by going to the Implement screen. The Implement screen consists of a table containing all the actions of the challenge. And on the right, there's a timeline. We can zoom in or out in time using the mouse wheel. And we can move back and forth in time by left click and hold, and then move the mouse left or right. At the bottom of the screen, we see a panel with the details of the currently selected action. Its name, its description, start date, due date, the actors, there can be one or there can be multiple actors, two criteria which are impact and feasibility. These can come in very handy if we have a large number of actions that we want to prioritize. We will see right away how. And at the bottom we see the progress of every actor through a slider going from 0 to 100. Let's say the action is completed and we move the slider to 100, then the action turns green. We can indicate the result, for instance, no out of range vibrations observed. We can add new actions either in the Analyze screen here, which we have discussed earlier, or using the toolbar here in the Implement screen. By clicking on this menu, we can add new actions or sub-actions. Mind though that by adding actions here, they are not linked with a node in particular, but to the challenge as a whole. We can remove an action, we can park an action when the action is identified but not ready to be assigned, and we can unpark the action if we have more information and the action is ready to be assigned. If an action is late, we can send a reminder to the actors of the action. This menu allows to show or hide parked actions, and the plus menu allows to hide the action details. This can be useful if you want to show a large number of actions on one screen. In the same way, we can hide the timeline. If I do that, the action table will enlarge and show all the detailed information of every action, except the outcome and comments. And we are going to be able to sort on each of these columns. I can also show a priority matrix. We have talked about the impact and feasibility criteria earlier. These criteria, in the case where we have a lot of actions, will allow us to prioritize the different actions. Either we use the different sliders for the selected actions, like this, or either we change the action directly in the graph. This will change the sliders in the panel below. So this priority matrix allows to filter actions based on those two criteria. If we have a large number of actions, this step will enable us to say, let's concentrate us on the actions with the highest impact and the highest feasibility. These are the actions in this quadrant. And we're going to identify them as being a priority, either by specifying the priority here for the selected action, or by right-clicking directly in the graph. The action turns yellow, and we see here that the action has become a priority. Like this, we can easily identify some actions that we are going to carry out first. By repeating the process of identifying causes and carrying out actions to verify whether the causes are really causes or not for our challenge, we will gradually arrive at the root causes of our challenge. We can dig deeper at every node with sub-causes and sub-sub-causes, But for the sake of the demo, let's skip that. I will just show you how you can indicate a level of influence for a node. Here we see, with the selected node button enabled, a slider called Node Influence within the context section. At the start, all the nodes have a maximum level of influence. We can reduce the level of influence of the vibrations node because we just performed a measurement that allowed us to say that there were no out-of-range vibrations. So let's say this cause has no influence on our challenge. This will allow us to focus on the other possible causes that we have not yet ruled out. Something I've mentioned earlier is that there are different types of nodes. We have the driver nodes, elements which have an influence on the overall challenge I'm trying to solve, and we have recommendation nodes, things I can do to solve it. Let's say that for the vibrations we need to change the frequency of the predictive maintenance. We create a new node, which we are calling change frequency of predictive maintenance. And we are changing this node into a recommendation node, using the selection wheel, the cogs, and then the recommendation button. The node turns green. You may have seen that there are also nodes of the type category. Category nodes allow you to split a certain root cause path into, for instance, factory A and factory B, and allow you to continue the investigation underneath for each factory separately. In addition to structuring your investigation using category nodes, Solvace will ignore these types of nodes when looking for suggestions. We can also set a node as a root cause. So let's say we have identified cavitation as a root cause. Of course, in reality, the root cause will be much more fine-grained than this first level cause. We can do this using the selection wheel, cogs, and mark as root cause. And the node turns yellow. Now we have a visual indication of the root cause of the challenge. Finally, if I want to export the challenge to someone or an organization who doesn't necessarily have Solvace, I go to the plus menu and click Export Challenge. This step will generate a document that will contain every part of the challenge, including the action list and all the attached document, and also the action list as a separate Excel file. An important element in Solvace is collaboration. Within a challenge, users can collaborate in two ways. The first one is the chat, which is accessible from the icon here, and which allows a real-time discussion between participants. We can move the chat window around on the screen with the left click and hold and then move. So I can place it here if I want, and I can close it and bring it back at every moment. The other way is to use the feedback panel. The feedback panel allows to leave comments with a more permanent nature and to link those comments to nodes. Comments can be linked to the entire challenge or to the selected node. Let's say I wish to add a comment to the corrosion node. I make sure that the selected node button is active, and then I click on New inside the feedback panel to add a comment to this node. My comment could be, have you thought about the anti-corrosion layer? I submit my comment, and now the other participants will be able to see my comment, and I also see that a comment icon has been placed next to the selected node. The other participants will be able to evaluate my contribution using the upvote and downvote buttons, which enable Solvace to calculate the relevance of this contribution and use this information in the calculation of the topic experts. By the way, downvotes are always anonymous. In the very same way, participants can vote on documents. We see that the same voting buttons return underneath every document. We have now reviewed the different components of Solvace that allow to solve a challenge. And we will now return to our homepage to see how we can find back challenges. So we click on the Solvace logo, which brings us back to the activity feed which we have discussed earlier. When I click on Challenges Created, I can see that I have now an additional challenge, which is the one we've created just now. I'm going to add it to the maintenance folder which we created earlier. To find back an element in Solvace, there are two ways, the quick search and the advanced search. The quick search is available in the navigation bar on top. And here I can search for people, challenges or communities. I could be interested in challenges about turbines, and this will give me challenges which have the word turbine in the title, but also challenges which talk about turbines elsewhere in the challenge. We can also search for users and go directly to their page. If I do this, I land on their page and I can see, for example, all the challenges that this user has created or that he is involved in. It's important to note that these lists of challenges are filtered to the ones you are able to see. I can also see the user's actions, which opens up the transversal view of all actions assigned to this user within challenges that I can see. I cannot see actions from challenges to which I don't have access. I can bring up the same view for my personal actions using the link here. The second option is the advanced search. The advanced search is available from the link on the left or from the link advanced next to the quick search. Or when we perform a quick search, the advanced search is always suggested as the last option. When we click on advanced search, we find back the three types of elements we can search for. We can search for challenges, communities, or users. We can search using multiple criteria. So for instance, if we type turbines, we find several challenges, which we can filter to just the ones from the community pumps. We can also filter on topics, for example, high pressure. We can sort results alphanumerically or by creation date. We can sort based on whether or not a challenge is completed. And we can search for standards only. You'll hear more about standards in the next video. The search works the same way for communities. And here we see that there are only 2 communities, but if you have many communities in your organization, it could be interesting to search for communities, filter on communities that are very active, or just show the ones that you're a member of. Depending on your organization's needs, additional search fields like business unit, site, and language may be present. Finally, we can search for users. The last thing we're going to show is how to manage your user settings. To access your user settings, there are 2 ways. Either by clicking the icon next to your name, or from every page within Solvace by clicking on your name and then settings. Here you can see different settings. If you're registered in Solvace with an email and a password, you can edit your name, email and password, and even your picture. Of course, if you're registered using a social network account like Google, this information is retrieved from Google and it is non-editable within Solvace. You can change the language of the interface, and below you can change the frequency of email notifications sent by Solvace. You can receive an email when there is a new action assigned to you. Even if there are multiple actions being assigned to you, you will just receive one email. You can choose whether to be reminded of upcoming due dates for actions assigned to you, a couple of days before the due date or on the due date. You can receive progress emails for challenges. This is a recap email explaining the progress in the challenge since the last email. Actions done, actions late, new actions, and so on. Here you will receive one email per challenge. Finally, you can choose to have the messages sent by users within Solvace sent to you by email. Don't forget to save the changes when done. This concludes the first video on using Solvace. Stay tuned for the next video, where some of the more advanced features will be discussed.